Hi everyone, good evening. Welcome to another session of Biology Grade 10. But before starting the session, I would like to introduce you to Swiflearn. It is India's most sincere learning destination for grade 3 to grade 10. Here we have 100% live and interactive classes. We have a personalized attention batch with a maximum of 6 students. A dedicated academic mentor is there to track and work on your studies and your progress. And we also cover your entire course syllabus with the custom request, right? As per your exam schedules and everything. Moving further, I would like you to tell you the main key features of SwiftLearn. We provide you with a detailed progress report. We also help you do SwiftLearn academic test series. We also take ultimate practice test and of course the subjective test for school exams. So if you have not yet tried it, please book a free trial class today itself. Moving further, if you have not yet subscribed the YouTube channel, please subscribe it, press the bell icon and never miss any update on a live session. So today we are going to cover up the third part of the chapter Heredity and Evolution. So what we are going to learn today are going to learn more about variation. We are going to learn the theories of evolution, how it has acquired and how acquired and inherited traits work. Okay. So we will begin our discussion with the term like what is variation and how important the variation is for the survival of species, right? It is always said that there's the survival of the fittest, isn't it? And how do we remain that fit? Of course, there was somebody else who were fitter than us earlier. There was maybe if I compare or we all compare ourselves to somebody else, maybe they are fitter, but still they didn't survive. And the human generation that survived, even other things that like there are animals that got extinct. There are animal species. There's so many things got extinct. But why? What is exactly happening around us that the things are getting extinct, right? So as keeping in mind that there's this we can say that there's always the survival of the fittest, let us see that why exactly and how exactly this variation happens and how exactly with the help of variation we are capable of surviving on the earth. So to answer that previous question, let's go through some points, very, very important points. So what is variation actually? To understand how evolution takes place, let us consider some imaginary example. Okay. So consider a group of 12 red beetles. Okay, so there were supposed 12 red beetles. They lived in some bushes with green leaves. Okay, so if you can just imagine in your mind, there were red beetles and they were living on a tree, okay, and they were 12 in number. Now, the population will grow by sexual reproduction, of course, and therefore can generate variations, right? We studied in our past class that how when they reproduce there can be a variation in the species, right? So now they can reproduce and therefore they can generate variations in them. Let us imagine also that crows eat these beetles, or crows or sparrows or whatever there is. There are like birds eating those beetles that were there on the trees. Now, the more beetle the crows eat, the fewer beetles are very able to reproduce, isn't it? So then now the crows are eating them, or any other bird is eating them. So there are less number of beetles left onto the trees to reproduce, isn't it? Look at this example right in front of you. So there are three scenarios if you can like see onto the screen right now. There's a first scenario. Let us discuss one by one all three of them. The first one, the first row right here. Then we'll discuss the second scenario, that is second scenario, the second row, and the third scenario here, that is the third row. Let us discuss one by one. Let us consider the three different situations that can develop onto the population of beetles. So firstly, appearances of favorable variation. Okay, then appearance of unfavorable variation. So what was the favorable variation? That the beetles were red, so all the beetles that will be now reproduced will be red in color. There was an unfavorable variation where the beetles, maybe by any kind of genetic change or maybe any kind of adaptation, or maybe because of the variation, I would say, there was some other color of beetle that was reproduced, and the appearance of a plant disease. Right. So let's consider these three situations. First situation, in case the first situation, a color variation arises during reproduction, so that there is one beetle that is green in color now instead of red. Okay. So what happened now? On like the beetles were reproducing, and by any chance of the variation, there was other all were red, but there was one that turned out to be green. And because of that green color, the beetle was hidden onto a green tree, right? The leaves were green, isn't it? So when the crows or sparrows or pigeons were trying to eat it, they were not able to see the green one. So automatically, when they started reproducing, the number of red beetles got decreased because they were all quite visible to the pigeons, so they were easily able to eat the red ones. On the other hand, green more multiplied, reproduced, and the number of green now is more than the red, and hence at the end, when the red ones were finished by eating up, they were all eaten up by the birds around. So now what was left? The green one, isn't it? Now, if we can just recapitulate what we just read in the first example, the number of green beetles increased after reproduction. Crows cannot see the green color beetle on the green leaves of the bushes and therefore cannot eat them. The progeny of the green beetle is not eaten, while the progeny of the red beetle continues to be eaten, right? As a result, the population of the green beetles increases than the red ones in the beetle population. The origin of green beetle happened by a chance. Yeah, that was absolutely a chance because it was not a dominant trait, but still sometimes the traits that are recessive in nature, that are being hidden somewhere, they come up. So that was a case of that thing. The origin of green beetle happened by chance, but it gave survival benefits to the beetle, isn't it? Finally, the green beetle could survive and multiplied it in the surroundings, right? So hence the green color helped the beetle to survive onto that particular plant because of the color they got by chance. The case two, where there were like in the second situation, the color variation arises during reproduction, but now it results in a beetle that is blue in color instead of red. Okay, so now there was no chance that the beetle or the birds that were flying around that could not see blue color or a red color, that is both of them are quite evidently visible on green, isn't it? So here what happened, and don't forget this elephant foot right here on the beetle plant. Okay, so this is going to play an important role over here. Okay, the number of blue beetles increased after reproduction, right? They increased. Of course, there was one, then from one they went to two or to three to four, and then how it increased. Now, crows can see blue colored beetle in the green leaves on the bushes as well as they can see the red ones, and therefore can eat them too. Initially, the number of red beetles is more than the number of blues, right? But at this point, an elephant came by and stamped onto the bush where there were beetles live. Okay, so where there were beetle living over there, so and by anyhow, the elephant just put his foot onto the red side where there was all red beetles. So now what happened? So this killed most of the beetles. By chance, the few beetles that have survived are mostly blue in color. The beetle population slowly expands again, but now the beetles in the population are mostly blue. The survival of the blue beetles was because of an accident, and an accident was cause of natural selection. Yeah, it was a natural selection. Nobody came here or nobody just selected, oh, I'm going to step onto the red ones and leave the blue ones. No, it was just a matter of survival and natural selection. The foot could have gone anywhere. Now there was a case three as well. Now consider a third situation. In this, As the beetle population began to expand, the bushes start suffering from a plant disease. Yeah, of course, the number of beetle increased onto the plant, so plant got weakened and everything. Like it starts shedding off the leaves and it got diseases. So what happened after that? The amount of leaf material for the beetles reduced, right? They used to eat it or maybe survive onto it, but now that material has reduced. Therefore, the beetles are poorly nourished. And what will happen if anything is poorly nourished? Of course, they will lose on to the weight. They will start looking thinner and smaller, right? So the average weight of an adult beetle decreased due to non-availability of leaves, but there is no genetic change occurred. There was nothing else that changed, but the size and the weight of that particular beetle got decreased. After a few years and a few beetle generations of such scarcity, the plant disease is eliminated. So because the beetle got reduced, the size got smaller. So now the disease from the plant that was cured. And after that, as soon as it got cured, the beetle again grew onto the size. Why? They were able to get those nutrients, they were able to get those things from the plant, right? Let's read it now. There's a lot of leaf food and weight of the beetles also increases. Here, the change in the size was a change in the phenotype. It was just visibly seen different and hence was not inheritable, where like the colors were given like blue or green. They were inheritable conditions, they were inheritable phenomena. But over here, this thing where it was getting thick or thin, this is just a phenotype and not a genotype. Change in the size could not produce any variation and evolution in the species. Right. Now, are triads like traits individually acquired, or do entire population evolve? Like this must be coming to your mind, that if something is happening to one of the beetle, will it happen to just one of the beetle, or entire generation or entire population that living on the earth will be affected by that? So let's explore this now together. Now, the sequence of gradual changes take place in an organism over a million of years and lead us to formation of new species is known as evolution, right? This we all know, that it takes millions and millions of years to get those evolutional changes in any of the organism, right? Because slowly, generation by generation, the others will be residing, they will be like dying and like going away, and the new and the new and the new ones will be coming with the new changes. So J.B. Lamarck was the first scientist who gave the theory of evolution. He gave the theory of inheritance of acquired characters. Later on, Charles Darwin came and gave the theory of natural selection, or Darwinism. Darwinism. According to this theory, evolution occurs through natural selection. Now, the theory of Lamarckism. So this is the theory where, like, of a theory of inheritance of acquired characteristic. Lamarck is based on the following postulates: living organisms tends to increase in size. We all know that. New need lead to the formation of new organisms. Continued use of particular organ make it more developed, and disuse of an organ leads to its degeneration. So it was by his study, it was quite evident that in the organisms, or organisms that were there on the earth or on the planet, what happened, the things or the organs that were used the most, automatically we can see that they were more developed in this coming on species, okay, in the new generations. And if it was compared that from the older generations, that the body parts or the things that were not used were degeneration, okay, onto its, like they leave behind those things and they grow. New characters are acquired by individuals during their lifetime. Now, if you look at this example, so you can all guess it, it's a giraffe. So if you see the evolution with time, it was small and small, but to access to reach towards the food, it used to stretch. Maybe it used to stretch the neck or something, and by time, the neck, the height of the neck or the feet and everything got increased because it was necessary for the thing to reach to its food, right? The evolution of longer neck in giraffe is an example of Lamarckian inheritance. Lamarckism or Lamarckian inheritance, also known as neo-Lamarckism, is the notion that an organism can pass on to its offspring physical characteristics that the parent organism acquired through use or disuse during its lifetime. That was really, really rare. We just read about the example. Now, what was the theory of Darwin? Darwin theory was also known as the theory of natural selection. So, postulates of Darwin theory, speciation, yeah, formation of species, useful variation from generation to generation give rise to the formation of new species. Struggle for the existence. Due to multiplication of organism and limited food and space, there exists competition among the organism, right? So of course it's everywhere, not just in animals, it's everywhere. So if there will be a shortage of food and people will be more, there will be like a competition to survive, and everybody will fight for that food, right? Now, survival of the fittest or natural selection. What is it exactly? So, nature selects those characteristics or organisms that are useful and are best adapted to prevailing conditions. Example: industrial melanism observed in peppered moth in Britain. Okay, so this is a really interesting. An example that happened in Britain, like when there was an industrial revolution. Industrial revolution means when there were industries been introduced, there were lot many industries. Because of that, there were a lot of pollution, and because of that pollution, there were changes in those species. That was a peppered moth. Let's just see what exactly changed in them. So the evolution of the peppered moth is an evolutionary instance of color change in the moth population as a consequence of air pollution during the Industrial Revolution. The frequency of dark-colored moth increased at the time, an example of industrial melanism, right? So there were more of, I would say, pollution, or air was bad, or there was dust all around. So it changed the how the moth used to look. So now they were more black in color. There used to be more black spots on them. This is how they evolved, or how they changed themselves according to survive in that. Okay, so we are back. So we were just discussing about the traits that can be inherited either during the lifetime or from the ancestors. So can you name few traits think for a second and think about the traits that you have got from your parents or your ancestors, or maybe like what are the things that we get from our parents or from our generations, they keep on coming to us. So if we think about that, maybe how we look like, that is the first thing that comes to our mind. Maybe our eye color, maybe our appearance, maybe our height, right? But it's not always so. Yeah, let us see and let's read together. Okay, so what happens here is that we have some inherited traits. Inherited traits are the traits of organisms. Okay, so we were discussing about the traits, the traits that we get from our parents, right? Inherited traits are traits in organisms due to change in the genetic composition, and it can be passed from one generation to the next generation, and it results in evolution. Inherited traits include things such as hair, like color, like your hair color or your eye color, your muscle structure, bone structure, and even features like the shape of your nose. Further, like if you can just see the eyes of all these beautiful cats right in front of you, if you can see the eye structure, they're quite similar to each other, isn't it? And cats resemble each other. So now we were discussing about the acquired traits. So acquired traits are the traits which are acquired by an organism during its lifetime, and it cannot be passed from one generation to the next, and it does not result in evolution. Like one of your brother or sibling or your maybe father or mother, maybe she is a bodybuilder, but until and unless you work on your body, you eat healthy, you cannot get those traits, the larger muscles, or maybe healthier or so your body, your muscles, the strongness of your things, the thing is you have to work on. Nobody is going to give you as an inheritance. No, you have to work on those areas. Moving further, behaviors that can help an organism survive would also be considered acquired characteristics most of the time, like things like where to hide and what animals to hide from, and other behavior acquired characteristics might include bending because of the wind or growth resulting from insect bite. Okay. Okay, so these are the things that you have to do it on your own. You have to learn it on your own. You do not inherit it. Now, checkpoint. What are examples of inherited traits? What types of traits cannot be inherited? Let's answer these questions together. So inherited traits include things such as hair color, eye color, muscular structure, bone structure, and even features like the shape of nose. Inherited traits are traits that get passed down from generation to the next generation. This might include things like passing red hair down in a family. Examples of non-inherited traits include table manners, greetings, appearance for certain types of, like preference for certain types of food, and your presenting skills. Examples of physical inherited traits include hair, eye, and skin color, facial features, height, dimples, length of toes, and muscle structure. So let's discuss few multiple type questions as well. Natural selection states that individuals with an adaptive trait are more likely to survive. On the bottom level, we have individuals with an adaptive trait are more likely to survive. Okay, natural selection states that individuals with an adaptive trait are more likely to survive. On the bottom level, we have individuals with a higher level of heredity have the greater period of time, or demonstrating altered behavior are the ones with the most mutation. What do you think is the correct answer? Here, the answer for this is A. The natural selection states that with the adaptive traits are more likely to survive. So you have to adapt and you have to survive. That is the only way you can survive. During a study session about evolution, one of your fellow students Okay, so during a study session about evolution, one of your fellow students remarked the giraffe stretched its neck while reaching for higher levels. Its offspring inherited longer necks as a result. Which statement is most likely to be helpful in correcting the student's misconception? So out of these five, which one you feel will correct the above statement? Five options, let's go through them. Characteristics acquired during an organism's life are generally not passed on through genes. Spontaneous mutation can Spontaneous mutation can result in the appearance of new traits. Only favorable adaptations have survival value. Disuse of an organ may lead to its eventual disappearance. If the giraffe did not have to compete with each other, the longer neck would not have been passed on to the next generation. So answer for the same is the first, A. The characteristics acquired during an organism's life are generally not passed on through genes. Further, both the answers were A. What we have learned in today's session. Let's go through it. We have learned about variation, appearance of unfavorable variations. We learned about appearance of a plant disease. It can also happen because appearance of the favorable variations. Evolution is a theory of Lamarckism, then theory of Darwin. Then we read about the traits. There are acquired traits and there are inherited traits. So this was the all things that we have covered in today's session. Thank you everybody for joining in and having an amazing session with me. If you have not yet subscribed, please subscribe. So if you have not yet subscribed, please subscribe the channel, press the bell icon, and never miss any update on a live session. Thank you everybody for joining in. Hope to see you, all of you, really, really soon.